a song for you.
You're listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I will do one episode for each song the band recorded in the studio. However, this is a fan podcast and not band endorsed. It's more of a tribute to their long history, well beyond just the hits, and my way of giving something back to a band that has given so much to me. Let's dig in! Hello and welcome to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. We are in season 9. This is episode 3 of the album Burn. And today we're covering the song Lay Down, Stay Down. Well, vocally, yeah, it's pretty much that. Not subtle, not shy in claiming what you want on this one. And we'll get into all that as the show goes on. I think this is where the difference in lyricists makes a huge impact on the band, because love songs, just wanting to get laid, were not a huge part of the Deep Purple Mark II songs. You know, they wrote about all kinds of things. There was a little bit about love, a little bit about maybe sex, as we discovered in some of the songs, but they could have been about anything. And, you get into, like, you look ahead to where David Coverdale goes in Whitesnake. Pretty much everything is about getting laid. Some of the work on his solo albums, which I can appreciate, were not necessarily about that. And there were a couple songs here and there, but Whitesnake was pretty much a, hey, I'm horny, I want some lyrical content band. And, It definitely is interesting the way that, you change out lyricists and it changes that part of the face of the band. Musically, they're still the same. They're still a hard rock band. We've got changes in the bass here musically, but they're still the same Deep Purple. They're still putting out great rock and roll, or hard rock as they prefer it. And that's that. But yeah, it's a little different when the content changes away from the, here's the injustice in the world, or here's somebody that I can't stand, or, here's what's going on, or look what happened to this guy kind of thing, to I want to get laid. So I'm not a fan of the lyrics on this song just for that reason. I think there's a McZillion songs out there about this, and it gets to be a really boring topic for me. But fortunately, I'm not a huge lyrics guy, but it's kind of hard not to notice. You know what I mean? Like, you can look at something from a certain standpoint and say, okay, but the lyrics are the lyrics, no big deal. But it's kind of hard to ignore because it's so thrust in your face, so to speak. Take that as you will. So anyway, let's get into the music. Let's see what this song is all about. Here it is, Lay Down, Stay Down by Deep Purple. It's a classic riff, right? You can go anywhere from here, and you've got a good up-tempo song, got a lot going on. Over in my far left ear, I'm hearing some cowbell that was obviously tracked on after the drums. And the reason that I say that is because they keep going where it would be physically impossible for Ian to play hi-hat, snare, and cowbell all at the same time, unless he was using some sort of foot pedal, but that would just be ridiculous and make no sense whatsoever. So that's tracked on afterwards. And I love the opening, though. It's like kind of the way that you would present a song at a concert, or maybe even open a concert, with that, shaking the sticks against the cymbals to create that, sonic field. And then you get this really cool lick from John on piano. It's a great opener. If Burn wasn't the opener, I would maybe make the argument that this could be, although don't know you want to start out with the rest of the song, but the opening part could make a potential great album opener. It's good. I like what I'm hearing so far. Lots of energy. Everybody seems really into it, and we'll see where we go from here.
I don't care if my lady's gone, as long as you give me just what I want. I've been losing my direction, gotta find a new connection.
So, of the three songs we've covered so far, and I'm including this one from the Burn album, we get drum solos all the way through the verses of Burn. We get some pretty ambitious playing during the beginning of Might Just Take Your Life, where Ian's just not playing a straight pattern. He's just kind of playing what he feels in the moment within the tempo. And then we get this one where we're getting a drum solo through the verse. And I mean, it works. Everything that they do works for each of the songs, but I would think that maybe you'd want to space that out a little bit as far as you just placement on the album. Because for people that don't really listen to drums or might not enjoy or appreciate the drums, it could be a little tiresome for, every song to be a drum off. So that would be one thing I would consider, but I definitely like what I'm hearing. And again, we're going back to the same thing we've talked about with Speed King and other songs where they're playing the riff in between the line, leaving that path for the vocals to cut through. And it's great for the engineer too, because it's a lot less work. They don't have to, side chain or do any compression where they're compressing down the music to allow the vocals to shine a little bit where they are, because the vocals are always going to be the focal point when there's vocals. And so any other thing would be secondary to it, right? So you take that, you've got to push it down to leave room for the vocals if there's a lot going on, but they're really leaving a lot of room for that. Just kind of like, hey, I want to say something. Okay, now it's David's turn. Okay, now it's my turn. Okay, now it's David's turn. And just, leaving the path open for him. So it's very cool when you do that. But really energetic so far. I like what I'm hearing. I just find it interesting that we're 3 songs in and we've had a lot of busy Ian Paice.
You have wasted the love I tasted. Now I'm really getting hungry more and more. Been a long time, headed back sign. Tell me what am I fighting for?
Oh, I love that fill. I've always loved that fill. It's so much fun. I mean, Ian Paice is playing some great stuff here. Let's, I don't want to sound like I'm talking down about him because we've just had so many songs with a lot of drums in them, but he's definitely playing some great stuff throughout this song. So I really do enjoy that. I think the contrast of David and Glenn is really nice, but I've always felt a little bit confused. And Uriah Heep had a lot of this too, where you have a singer who's just a dedicated singer. He doesn't play an instrument. That's literally his only job, is to write lyrics and sing. You have another talented singer who plays an instrument. In Uriah Heep, you had Ken Hensley, who could play guitar and keyboards. In Deep Purple, you got Glenn Hughes, who plays bass. As a singer, if I were a singer, I should say, because I'm not. I mean, I've been able to sing some things in the past, but I wouldn't call myself a singer. I guess I would feel a little bit like my territory, maybe. Well, I don't want to sound territorial, but if that's my only function, why do we have somebody else doing half of my job and me just standing there doing nothing, looking at the crowd? Or, I would probably feel that way, but the harmonies are amazing. Glenn has a fantastic voice. I mean, he sounds great on this song. The contrast of the two of them, the way that they sound apart is amazing. It really makes for an interesting sound in a song. But I'm just thinking of, like, if I were the singer, as a musician, as somebody that's my job, I guess I would feel like maybe I'm not that important.
Love it like you feel it. You know I really need it. Keep on pushing for more. Lay down, stay down. I got something to find. There's one thing I really need. I'm gonna tell you right now. Lay down, stay down.
Again, another killer fill from Ian Paice, kind of taking what he did going into that section and then expanding on it. Love the feel of that. The vocals just sound so amazing. I have to admit, I mean, aside from, trying to put myself in David Coverdale's shoes and thinking, how I would feel as just a soul singer, like when you listen to what we hear in the song, it sounds absolutely amazing. I don't know that I would have gone up at the end of Stayed Down every time, though. I think I might have considered kind of, up sometimes, down other times, because that gets pretty consistent. And as good as it sounds, I think they could have broken that up and done a variety of things to make it a little bit more interesting. But overall, I mean, the sound of the vocals is just fantastic, and music, everybody's just on fire on this. It feels like everybody just loves the song. They're enjoying playing it, and I just can't help but to get a really good feel from it. So a perfect example of what I'm talking about would be what we're hearing right here, where you're getting Richie doing a little bit of a variation. He's not just repeating and playing the same thing. He's changing it up, going up in notes, making it a little bit more interesting and dynamic. That's what I would be looking for in that vocal.
Looking for trouble, I guess that's right. When I was young, I was taught to fight. It's been long, long since I had known.
Now that fill is interesting because it feels slower. Obviously, he's playing it a little bit differently. Everything else is kind of like a flurry of notes, and this one's a little more slowed down and precise. It should change the feel of the song. It should feel like the song is slowing down, and to some extent, it does. But it's so short that it really doesn't have an impact on the speed of the song overall. But it's a very interesting choice.
Now I'm headed for some more. Love it how you feel it. You know I really need it. Keep on pushing for more. Lay down, stay down. I got something to find. There's one thing I really need. I'm gonna tell you right now. Lay down, stay down.
If there was one vocal to change, I would say probably this one going into the chorus would have been a good spot to do that. But again, that's just not the choice they made. Also, another build on that same style of fill from Ian Paice as we're getting into the solo section here. This is a really cool way that they lead into the solo coming up that I've always really enjoyed. It's a little bit different. Instead of just starting off with the solo, they leave a little bit of room here and then go into it. And I think that's a great choice. I like the feel of that. So that's almost a minute and 10 seconds of solo in a song that's like 4 minutes and 19 seconds long. That's a lot of real estate in a song. And I feel like it could have been shorter. I've never really mind, like as a casual listener, I've never really minded it. But now that I'm kind of listening as someone who's more experienced as a musician, who's, done work as a producer, who produces their own music and has to make those decisions, it's a lot of time. And I really feel like the solo could have been shorter. The other thing is too, if Ian Paice hadn't been, playing basically solo through the verses, I might feel like this section was overplaying the song. If we were just getting a straight drum beat with some good fills, this might be a little bit too much. But because Ian Paice is just kind of a wild guy throughout the song, I mean, controlled, he knows what he's doing. He's not just playing whatever, but, he's just kind of, all over the kit, doing a lot of fills. This solo isn't really as over the top as it would have been otherwise, because then it would just be coming out of nowhere. But we've got the drummer basically soloing through the verses. Why shouldn't we have the guitar player getting a little crazy during his solo? There's just a lot of notes in short periods of time here, but some of the stuff is really nice, especially the end with the harmonies. Really like that. I like the way that he always just finds this amazing way to, wherever he's at in a solo, to just bring it all together where it needs to be. And that's one of the things about Ritchie's playing that I've always admired, is that he knows how to make it come together no matter where he goes in the solo. And I think this is a perfect example of that, because that solo was pretty wild. And then we come back to this part with the harmonies and all that. And again, the cowbell continuing. I guess for me, when there's something that feels tacked on, because it just keeps going through parts that don't make sense for it to keep going. I always just imagine, what it would be like Ian Pace standing there in front of a microphone, just, standing there hitting a cowbell. It doesn't fit in as much. I guess a tambourine just seems so much more natural. A cowbell's fine if you're playing it as part of the rhythm. But when it's tacked on separately, I don't know, it always feels like it's separate to me. And so I like the sound of it. I think it works, but if it could have been part of the actual drum part, that would have been fine. But it's hard for me not to picture that, because I've been that guy standing there just hitting a cowbell. I haven't really talked much about the bass on the song. In this last part, we get Glenn just kind of going up the scale, doing the, a slight variation on the general 12-bar blues walking bass line. It's not bad, though. He just keeps going up and then doing a little bit and then going back down again. And it works for the song, Interesting how quickly that reverb tail dies off. And I wonder if they've got some kind of gate or something on it, or maybe they're manually killing that. I don't know, but that runs out pretty quick. Also, I'm not sure what that sound is that we're hearing at the end. It could be like a gated cowbell, but there's a pitch in there that doesn't quite fit in with everything else that we're hearing. And obviously the cowbell stopped a while ago. So I'm not sure. It could be one last cowbell hit that they gated or processed in a way that they take the attack off of it, and you're just hearing this, sort of rush of sound. They might have done that with a reverb trick as well, and just kind of, curtailed the attack on it. It's hard to say, but there's definitely something I'm hearing in there. Overall, yeah, it's a great song. I mean, I said, I think in an earlier episode, there's every track on this album is a great track. Don't get me wrong. But if I had to pick a track that would be the weakest of all of them, and there's always a best track and a worst track sort of thing, but I would say this is probably the weakest of all the songs. Yet it still has a lot of energy, a beautiful vocal, a very exciting solo from Ritchie, nice transitions, a great ending. It kind of opens with that concert opening. It kind of ends with a bit of a concert ending too, just not a long drawn out one. So there's a lot of positives to the song, but I guess overall, and maybe I'll feel differently as I go through all these songs and do the critical listens. But of all the songs on this album, I would say this is probably the weakest track. And I'm trying to remember which ones Roger said he liked when we talked to him about the Burn album, because we'd asked him if he'd listened to it. And I can't remember. He said there was a couple good tracks on it, and I can't remember if this was one of them or not. But in any case, it's still a great track, but of all the selections we have to choose from here, I would say it's the weakest. But that's that, and that's okay. So, but I hope you guys liked the song. I hope you've enjoyed my episode and analysis here as I've gone through it. I think too, for me, the subject matter detracts from it a little bit. And I have to say that probably factors in, because other than, rather long guitar solo, which is, a quarter of the song, which is a very long time when you think about it. Musically, it's fantastic. Just me nitpicking about the vocals at the end of that lay down, stay down line and that. But other than that, I mean, it's a great song. It's a great rock and roll track. So take that as you will. Hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If my calculations are right, it should be Friday. So I hope that you guys who have the weekend off have a great weekend. For those of you that work through the weekend or part of the weekend, I hope you enjoy your time. I hope that you enjoy your weekend when it comes up. I worked a lot of times where I had like my days off were split. And like one was a Sunday. I think when I worked for the music store for a while, my day off was like Sunday and Wednesday or something like that. And it was really cool to have a day off during the week because you could get stuff done like, banking or doctor's appointments or things like that you didn't have to try and squeeze in on a lunch hour or take your vacation time for. I'm trying to remember if we had vacation time. Oh yeah, we had to have because I got yelled at for not taking it. So that's how that goes. But anyway, yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy some music. Go listen to this song on its own without me interrupting it and see how you feel about it. We'll see you guys next Monday. Have a great weekend. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast, a tour of the entire Deep Purple studio recordings. Please remember to give the show a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Leave a comment and tell your friends. I also have a Patreon set up if you'd like to support the show. You can also write to me at smokeonthepodcast@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed the episode and thanks for listening.